This is just a quick little video on how to put some bearings back together. So these bearings were particularly filthy, and after having been left overnight in some isopropyl alcohol and cleaned out with my system, they're still quite dirty. So I've taken these out and stripped them to show how a full clean can be done if you wanted to go to the lengths of properly cleaning your races. That's much better. So cleaning these earlier will help prevent little pits and issues happening with these races. The idea is try and keep them as smooth as possible. This is where the main amount of friction will happen. People talk a lot about getting more expensive bearings, and they don't really roll any better, or ABEC 9 or ABEC 10. It doesn't make any real difference. They're all going to be about the same. What makes a huge difference in a bearing is some of the cheaper ones have a completely different race. So the main areas of friction are this little rubber casing. And on these moto bearings, there is one. On the cheaper rear roller bearings, there are actually two. There's one for each side. 2 equals a lot more friction, which is quite bad, whereas just having the one's a lot better. So if the other ones, I can't find them, they're here somewhere, I have to find it in a sec. So the other type of cheap bearing essentially has a different container. Here we go, here's one from earlier. So this is one I've just been working on. It's actually going quite nicely now. There's no grit in it, which is good. So this is the cheaper Rio roller bearings, £15. They're labelled as ABEC 9 Rio rollers, and as you can see, the holder, excuse the gunk, it's probably grease from before. The holder for them is metal, and you can't take it out. And there's two of them on either side. So that race, that bearing holder, essentially that bearing cage, compared to this bearing cage, which is made of plastic and has a lot less surface contact, this is going to perform a lot better than this. But you get these in bearings, essentially I think Rollerbones have them, so anything from about £25 upwards has these bearings. There's not really any difference between kind of that and a £50 or £60 bearing. They say there's a lot of difference, but there's not. If you think about the things that can actually cause friction and increase speed significantly, it's going to come down to how clean they are. These are still quite filthy. So that used to be pink, and they get covered in dirt and grime. And these need, if I wanted to clean these properly, they'd need a proper clean down. But these are moto bearings, and they don't really roll any different to any of the others that I've used. But polished races, polished balls, that stuff will make a difference. I'm not putting these back as well as they could be. Like, I could clean these up really, really well, but it'll take time, and motor bearings are expensive, but when you get the other bearings at like 25 quid, it's just not worth the amount of time it would take to strip all these down. But if you did want to do it, here's roughly how you put them back. So we took one of these, just used a kind of a needle or anything really to just push this race, and you just push that out and it just pops out. This bearing cage, it just pops out the back quite easily, and then you can sit and brush and clean. Like, these have been swished and they've been steeped overnight in ISO, and they still come up absolutely filthy. So I mean, functionally speaking, they'll probably be fine. You put a bit of oil in them, they'll be alright. But if you really want to go the whole hog, then you pop the race out and you take these individual balls, and you'd clean each one of these up so that they're nice and shiny before you put them back in. I'm not going to bother doing that, but here is how you actually put them back. So take our race, and there's our outer race. So we've got our inner race and we've got our outer race, and we're going to need to put all the balls now in this little race. And I recommend that you do this like on your finger, kind of about here-ish. There we go. That's probably best. And then you just start putting these balls in one by one. 1, 2, One of the only bearings that do make a lot of sense is the six balls, because just pure because less balls are less friction, so the better they'll go. But other bearings, they all run about the same. None of them are really manufactured that much differently to make really that much of a difference to your skate. The rest of it is mostly placebo, branding and marketing. The actual bearing technology is the same for the most part. So once we've got all of them in the bottom race, we can then pin them in the middle. So now this will, oh, I've dropped one. Come back. Oh, such a fiddly job this. I'm going to have to start again basically. So drop them all back in the race, get them all running straight, and then you've got to kind of push them all in together. That's not going to work out. And then you use like a little pencil just to separate them out a little bit. So I need to actually do this not on the crease of my hand. I hate doing these. I mentioned that I really don't like doing this. Let's try this again. It's particularly hard with the camera as well. So let's try it on the palm of my hand. We might have more success. Okay. Cool. And then this little bad boy can slot in the middle. There's enough space for him, just about. Come on. I hate these things so bad. Alright, let's try it. We'll try it on here, see if we can get it to work any better. In my experience, doing this on your hand is usually better, but we'll try it this way. So these got 7 bearings by default. Always good to keep a head count. So the trouble with putting them on a surface like this is it's then actually quite hard to kind of get them all up on the race. Because you don't have the flexibility of your finger to try and pop them all on, so it's actually quite tricky. No, this isn't going to work. You have to go back to the other. I really don't like doing this. Alright. This is the technique I have the most success with. Holding this bit here so that there's no crease at the bottom. Then you can kind of get them to sit sort of in the race. 3, 4. This is the reason I don't recommend this level of deep cleaning for your bearings. It's an absolute nightmare. And we haven't even got them back in the race yet. Right, okay, I've got them again. I think. There we go. So, there we are. So now, what you need to do to stop them from just falling straight back out again is you need to start separating them. So holding it all together, you just need to get one ball to move around. And that's not going to work because they're not all quite locked into the race yet. Oh, goodness me. Such a faff. You're all in this time? Yeah, they're all in this time. There we go. Oh, it's off camera. So these are all in now. So you can... now they're all in, you can just start moving them around. Once they've started moving around, they lock that centre spindle in. Then it can't move anywhere. So now is the fun job of stopping them from going all the way back round, and then you need to put enough of a gap between them to fit back in the holder, because the holder now needs pressing in. So, oops, over here, okay. So I'm going to put the holder in kind of from the back, and we're just going to start allocating balls to holes, and you can kind of start clipping them in, it will help. very gently, because it won't work if it's too clipped in. So, is that two? I need. Give me the light. Nope. So that one's one, and then this one is two, and then that one will go into 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Great. So they're all about right. Now I can push the race on. Oh, sorry, the bearing cage in. And there we go. Let's pop the bearing cage back on, and these are free to spin again. Now, does that one spin any better than the one that I didn't deep clean? Yeah, actually. Do you know, it runs smoother. Not by much. I mean, freeloading is not a very good way to indicate which one's better, but I mean, they essentially both stop at the same time, so, like, I don't think it's worth taking your bearings apart. I really don't, but should you wish to, that is how you do it. And then a couple of drops of bearing lube, and you are good to go. I use this Tempish bearing lube, bearing oil. It's cheaper than Bones. You get quite a lot more of it. So there we go. That's how to disassemble your bearings. The cheaper ones, as we talked about, they just have these metal races. And when you're thinking about whether to go for a more expensive bearing or not, my advice is don't bother. I think the people saying you're going that much faster, you'd have to be such a high level skater to notice a difference, even if there was much of one. But I mean, mechanically speaking, they're all the same as this. They're all the same. Some say they've got better side loading ability, like Bones will talk to you about. They've been tested for side load to stop the races from getting kind of dented or broken, or they've got deeper grooves. But I mean, deeper grooves just give you more surface area. More surface area just slows you down. The biggest and quite drastic things that will affect a bearing's ability to do its job and make you faster or slower are what we talked about. This bearing cage, whether it's got 1 or 2 of these rubber gaskets, like these rubber things are responsible for so much more friction and drag than any kind of higher level or higher price bearing. There's nothing they do in them that really makes them any better or roll any faster, but just having one of those rubber shields is going to be a lot better. And just having this shield, this ball bearing race bearing holder cage style plastic over these metal ones, that is going to be a big difference, just in the friction alone. So, but when you get to this point, which is about the £25 mark, there's not really a lot of difference. These these are Moto bearings. They've lasted forever. I honestly don't know how they've lasted for as long as they have. They've been in my skates for about 6 years. It's probably about 2 years of active skating and kind of regular weekly skating, and they've never been cleaned before now, and they're running quite well. You just want to feel for any grit or anything that's going to essentially score the races. Like, race scoring is the thing that slows your bearings down the most, more than anything else. People free spin them and go, look how long they spin for. It doesn't really mean much, because the under load, and they're going to be under significant load, they'll behave so much differerly to freewheeling that it's almost an irrelevant test, really. It's a pointless. It's just people showing off. How well they perform under load is going to be about the same for most bearings. It's not going to change, because all of the proponents that make a difference, as we've talked about, they're all present. There's nothing really different between this, which is I think about £40 to £50 set of bearings, and a roller bone bearing. They're really about the same. I don't think there's much more to talk about really on bearings, but if you've got any questions, feel free to fire them away. This will probably save you a lot of money messing about, and everyone was going to try and bamboozle you with their anecdotal evidence, but when you look at the physics involved, cheap bearings replaced once in a while are going to be much better than expensive bearings kind of cleaned take ages to clean. Cool. Thanks for watching, and if you've got any more questions about any skate related stuff, feel free to shoot.